whole production just to look presentable for a Zoom call?
Oh, tell me about it.
Like desperately trying to make that one tidy corner of your living room look vaguely professional.
Right. And hoping nothing embarrassing wanders into the frame, dude.
Exactly. Which brings us to today's deep dive. ZūmBak and their animated background loops.
Animated backgrounds, huh? Sounds interesting.
At first glance, it seems gigantic-y. It's a way to liven up your Zoom calls, But the more I dug into it, the more I realized it's actually a really fascinating example of how we communicate in this digital age.
I'm intrigued. What'd you find?
Well, we're constantly surrounded by screens. But even with all this technology, our brains are still wired to respond to visuals in a very primal way.
That's absolutely true. Humans are visual creatures. We always have been. It's in our DNA.
Right, like think about cave painting, hieroglyphics.
Exactly. For millennia, we've been using visuals to tell stories, share information, connect with each other.
And these ZūmBak backgrounds, they tap into that same, innate wiring.
Interesting. So how do they work?
Well, basically, they offer these animated loops you can use as your background on Zoom. Yeah, so instead of that blurry home office, you could have a bustling cityscape or a peaceful aquarium.
Okay, I can see the appeal. Adds a bit of visual interest.
Right. And the thing is, they're designed to be super user-friendly. No green screen needed. You just select the loop you want and boom, instant on beyond. But their website claims these loops can actually be great icebreakers.
Icebreakers, huh? I was skeptical, but go on.
Right. It seems like a stretch because our brains are naturally drawn to movement and novelty.
True enough. We're hardwired to pay attention to anything that seems out of the ordinary. It's a survival instinct.
So even if we're focused on the person speaking, our brains are still picking up on those subtle animations in the background.
Subconsciously registering them, exactly.
And that can make us feel more engaged, even if we don't realize it.
Right. It's like that feeling you get when you walk into a room and there's a fireplace going. You might not consciously think about it, but it adds a layer of warmth.
Exactly. And that kind of subconscious engagement can make the speaker seem more interesting, more memorable.
I can see that. It's about creating a more dynamic, stimulating visual experience.
Exactly. And that can lead to more organic conversations, more genuine connections.
So it's not just about aesthetics, it's about creating a more engaging and, dare I say, human experience.
Right. It's like having a conversation piece built right into your background. Like imagine you're on a call and you see someone has a virtual bookshelf behind them. It's natural to be curious, right? You might ask, hey, have you read any good books lately?
It's an easy conversation starter.
And suddenly you're talking about something you both enjoy.
It's funny how these little things can break down barriers.
But here's where it gets really interesting. Their website also describes their loops as entertaining, but not distracting.
Okay, that's a tough balance to strike. How do they manage that?
Well, it goes back to how our brains process visual information.
Okay, go on.
Our peripheral vision is incredibly sensitive to movement. It's what kept our ancestors safe from predators lurking in the shadows.
Right, we're hardwired to notice the subtle movements at the edges of our vision, exactly.
And these ZūmBak backgrounds are designed to live primarily in that peripheral space.
So they're noticeable, but not overwhelming.
Right. They add visual interest without hijacking your attention.
Fascinating. If they found a way to hack our visual processing.
Pretty clever. It speaks to a larger point about how much our brains are constantly taking in, even when we're not consciously aware of it.
Our subconscious minds are always at work, processing information and making connections.
It's wild when you think about it. Okay, one more thing I noticed about ZūmBak. They really push using these loops for holidays. And I think it's a really smart marketing move because it taps into something really powerful.
Okay, like what?
Shared experiences. Holidays are these cultural touchstones that we all experience. So by incorporating those themes into their backgrounds, ZūmBak is creating this sense of shared understanding.
Right, it's a way of signaling, hey, I get it, I'm on the same page as you.
Exactly. And that creates a sense of connection, which is so important, especially in these times when we're all feeling increasingly isolated.
I think you've hit on something really important here. It's not just about the technology itself, but how we use it to foster genuine human connection.
Exactly. It's about being mindful of the messages we're sending, even with the smallest details.
Because those details can make a big difference.
They really can. So as we wrap up this deep dive, I think the key takeaway isn't necessarily go buy a ZūmBak loop. It's about recognizing that in the digital age, we're all essentially creating our own little stage.
And how we choose to set that stage can have a real impact on how we're perceived and how we connect with others.
Exactly. So next time you're about to hop on a video call, take a moment to think about the message you want to send.
Be intentional about the image you're projecting. It might just surprise you how a few small tweaks can make a world of difference.